Chair O'Nines,
Here.
Vice Chair Brady,
Here.
Commissioner Ford,
Here.
Commissioner Hancock, Commissioner Moore.
Here.
Next on our agenda is the approval of the minutes for May the 15th, which gives you an idea how long we've been not meeting. And I think there were some people that weren't at that one. Can you hit the...
I think there's something just dropped off the first line on page C1. It says, he said he would be presenting both staff reports at the...
JP, do you know what that is?
Yeah, they're at the same time.
Yeah,
Or,
so
yeah, that's what I did, is we talked about them both at one time.
time. Yeah.
Okay. Get that corrected.
Any other corrections?
No.
Sure. Move to approve with corrections.
My second?
We have a roll call?
Chair O'Nines,
Yes.
Vice Chair Brady,
Yes.
Commissioner Ford,
Abstain.
Commissioner Hancock,
Yes.
Commissioner Moore. Abstain.
Next, we'll go to Ms. Parker for changes to the agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. There are no changes.
Okay. Next, we have our oral and written communications. All right, is there anyone that would like to make a presentation? I'll even hit the little wooden thing if you want. Okay, well, we're going to open it and close it. Matters at hand: preliminary and final design review of exterior modifications and a variance to the required percentage of first floor openings along the primary frontage of a commercial building located at 8220 Old Redwood Highway. Have we a report by staff?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the record, my name is John Paul Harries. I'm a planner with the City of Cotati. And this is item F1, and it begins on page 6 of your packet. And for the benefit of the commission, I handed out, this is kind of a duplicate of what's in your packet, but if you wanted, there were plenty for everybody. So each of you have one. There's also one in the back. And also, there's 2 copies of photos of just the existing condition out there. So when you're considering this, if you want to look at what's out there today, this is available for you to share. And there's also a copy on the back, counter for the public. So what we're talking about today is exterior modifications to an existing commercial building at 8220 Old Redwood Highway. You'll know this as the old Exchange Bank, which has been vacant for going on 3 years now, I think. I think the best way to talk about it would be the way I talked about it at DRC, and that's if you could look at one of the visual sims or that you have, or on page 11 of your packet, and I'll just start at the top of the structure and work my way down to the sidewalk and talk about the changes that are proposed. So along the roof, there are no changes proposed to the shingles. That's all remaining the same. And then we get to this, what I call a cornice type structure on the building. Currently it's got a blue facade that's going to be painted a charcoal gray. And you can also start to see the signage, and I'll talk a little bit about the signage, but also what we're considering is the signage that is going to be, which is proposed to be placed on the building presently. So Marketplace is, well, let me start by saying the business that's proposing to move in there is a realty company, RE/MAX, and this particular branch of the RE/MAX is Marketplace, RE/MAX Marketplace. So you're seeing their advertisement on that front cornice, which would be individual letters that sit proud of the facade there. As well, you're looking at their signage on that cedar accent wall next to the door. That also will be individual metal letters. There's no lighting proposed for the signage on top, but there is some consideration of using lighting behind the Remax Marketplace sign on that accent wall, which the lighting would be behind it so that it would basically glow. It wouldn't shine through the letters. It would just give a glow appearance behind the letters, or a halo type appearance. Okay, so returning back to the cornice, that will be charcoal gray. Then on the soffit of the cornice, that's proposed to have this rough cedar cladding on top of it, and you can see the cedar on that on the materials board behind you. That same cedar is used on that accent wall adjacent to the doors. The face of the building right now has vertical siding, wood siding. That will be replaced and a stucco-like product called Stowe, which has more elasticity to it. That's going to be the front side of the wall. And then probably one of the biggest changes are the increase in the window size. They're getting taller towards the roof and then lower also down towards the sidewalk. They are not expanding in width. And the reason is, as we'll talk about a little more, they're trying to work within the existing framing of the building. So they're going taller, longer, not wider. But they are adding a third window that will match the two existing windows, or will match the location placement of the two existing. And another window, if you're looking at this on the right-hand side, or the south side of the building, which will wrap around that edge and kind of starts out and then returns towards the doorway. Around that door, well, the door will also be replaced, and it will use metal grid, decorative grids. And there's a stone veneer that wraps around this entryway and then also is incorporated into a bulkhead beneath the windows. In the visual sim, it shows up as a light gray. But the truth is it's really that much more darker gray that's shown on that materials board. We talked about the cedar accent wall. And then the other prominent change is along the soffit, there used to be lighting within that soffit. All that soffit lighting is being removed. And what's being proposed is lighting between the windows, and this is an up-down lighting, so it will cast light up the window and it will cast light down, up the wall, and it will cast light down the wall towards the sidewalk. That same lighting also continues along the south side of the building, so that little alleyway will have some light on it. And then if we move to the rear of the building, we don't have images or visual sims of it. But the plans that start on page 21 of your packet show the rear of the building. And what's happening in the rear is a new exterior door is being added, which will exit into a rear patio area, which will be enclosed by a 6-foot cedar fence. And that area is really just for the employees to have some outdoor space, as well as for them to maybe take their clients out there as well. There's a cedar accent wall also proposed in the back, and they're proposing to replace windows, but no changes to the windows in the back. With the addition of the patio, there's a reconfiguration of some of the parking, which results in a loss of one parking space. I will say that there's a mistake in your packet. When I counted the spaces, I counted 20. There's actually 21 out there, and so all my references to there being 19 is wrong. There will be 20 at the end of this project. Their office is required to have 11 parking, so they still have more parking than they're required to have. And I think that really pretty much covers it. That's a lot of talk about a lot of little things. Oh, the variance. Let me touch on the variance. So the design standards found within the downtown specific plan for the historic core area has a requirement that the primary frontage, the first floor of the primary frontage, be 65% open in terms of windows or glass doors. And this is common and typical in like a commercial row setting, which is what we're promoting in this area. So I discussed it with Phil Brady. He's not here. He's the architect engineer about this window sizing, and it would have been a much different project. Which basically they're proposing to do these more or less aesthetic improvements and not get into big structural changes. And to accomplish that, to create that opening, that 65%, it would have been a challenge for this building because it's only got 12 feet on the first floor. And then with our requirement for the bulkhead, you start eating up your square footage that's available for windows. So they would have to go to a square footage of nearly 100% above that bulkhead of all windows. This would have required structural changes to the building, which is much bigger project than what they were trying to do here. So we think they've gone a long way. They nearly doubled the size of their openings. And we think, given the project, that it's perfectly reasonable to grant the variance in this case because they're not doing major modifications. It's not a tear down rebuild. It's a fairly minor project. So with that, I'm available for any questions. And I notice that the owner is here, Mark Fields.
Thank you very much for your presentation. Does anyone have any questions? Go ahead.
I've got a few. So I know this is a design review, but we had previously approved another use for this space, and apparently that's gone away. But I was hoping you could remind me of what the constraints are in our code for uses. I thought this was restricted to retail, and or with, unless a 90-day vacancy, which clearly there's been.
Right. So I think it was almost probably about a year ago, I would say at this point, we came forward with a proposed business that was going to go in there, a secondhand store. The previous owner of the building and the potential client in that case couldn't come to an agreement on the terms of the rental, so that project went away. Since then, the owner sold the building, so we have a new property owner. With respect to the use, secondhand stores require a use permit in this particular district. So that's why we had to come to you for that conditional use permit before they could go in there. In this case, a RE/MAX Realty would be considered professional offices, which typically we would want to have on either the second or third, well, second story or in the back of the development, not primary frontage. But as you noted, the exception is when you've had a vacancy for more than 90 days, it is permitted by right at that point, this particular type of business. So we're not considering a use permit for the applicant's tenant. We're simply considering the design review portion and the variance.
Great. A couple more. So the square foot calculation for signage when we're just talking letters and not a rectangular or circular sign, do you literally just consider the area of the letters themselves or an enclosing rectangle?
The enclosing rectangle.
Okay, thanks. And then the one question about the lower sign with the lighting behind it. I know our sign code prohibits internal lighting, so this doesn't qualify as internal light. I'm just trying to get clear on kind of how that fits.
No, our code doesn't allow for like see-through lighting, like a transparent type of lettering where it shines through. This wouldn't have that effect. This is more of an artistic effect that it would create but just provide a little bit of lighting. We do allow lighting to shine on
Right.
signs, so,
Okay, thanks.
and it sounds like, looks like,
I was just going to add, it actually encourages that backlit effect.
On the back patio, can you just clarify a little bit of what the configuration is going to be? Because when I look at it, looks like there's a handicap parking space back there. And is that going to be moved, or I'm just trying to see how that's all going to be configured.
so one of the conditions of approval is that they adjust the parking space that's shown. If you look on page 21 of your packet, you'll see a site plan. And currently there's 6 parking spaces, including an accessible space back there. The patio is going to result in a reconfiguration of the parking so that there's 4 standard parking and 1 accessible space there. We have asked them to relocate that accessible space or readjust it, because currently the way you would have to access it from the Tradewinds property to get to this spot. So we've asked them to turn it. I've actually seen the proposal, and what they're going to do is turn that accessible space 90 degrees. So you'll be able to swing into it without having to go on to any other property. So the space will remain. It's just going to be rotated 90 degrees. Slight adjustment in what you see there. It works out.
And they're keeping the tree right there?
There is no tree back there. I know which one, the one on the back of the building. Yeah, it's not there anymore. I don't know when it was removed.
Got a question also about that parking and the way it's looked to be accessed. Will it be drive-in down the side of the building? Because currently it's a one-way access.
That's one of the ways you could access that parking. The other way to access the back of the building, there's 2. You can access, probably the most used way is going down Charles Street. If you go down Charles, there's a driveway that leads down that long line of parking.
Actually, sorry, I meant parking spaces 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Right.
The way they're configured, because I just drove around.
Yeah, that one, those particular 4, well, you would probably be able to get into 4 and the accessible space once it's adjusted. The other ones would probably require you to come down that alleyway to park in them conveniently.
And then do the other parking spaces, because I know there's been quite a discussion about them, are they all part of this building, or how are they allocated amongst all the offices there, or not?
Well, they're 2 separate parcels, and the way the city has always viewed these parcels and continues to view them is that they're together. They run with this particular bank, or what used to be the bank. But this particular structure, it was the same way when we looked at the secondhand store. We counted all these particular parking spaces.
So which are the 2 pieces of property, which are the 2 properties? Are they?
They are not shown on this plan. Let me... Well, I can tell you, this particular parking, it's a long rectangular property like this. And it pretty much only has the parking and these trees down here. There's no structure on this particular lot. This lot kind of comes out to this property line and does a little kind of funky angle right here, and then comes back out. So I don't know, and hopefully that can clarify you. I can certainly give you a parcel map if you'd like before you make a decision.
No, maybe I'll just ask the owner if it comes up.
But can I ask a follow-up on that? So is there some condition or tying them so somebody couldn't sell off the parcel and make the parking not available to this use?
Presently, we are not proposing any kind of a deed restriction, I guess is what you would be expecting. We could, trying to think what our options could be real quick.
Yeah, I'd hate to, approve a use that requires that parking without some way to ensure that the parking remains available for the project, that's all, for the business.
I could jump in for a second.
Yeah.
We certainly could add a condition adding a condition requiring a recorded restriction on what is basically the parking parcel. That would give definitely some added protection that anyone who was pulling title on the property would see that it's basically a usable parcel and a parcel that's built with parking, so it could serve a variety of uses. Practically, we wouldn't, I guess that's the advantage of being so small, is that we would know if a project came in that the parking was required there. We've sort of always known that. But certainly, as a best practice, we could tie them together through a recorded document.
I don't care if you're happy or sad.
Well, do you want to wait till discussion later, or?
Yeah, I actually have a follow-up question too, so. So I'm going back to the removal of the tree. Do we have a tree removal ordinance in Cotati? So when you say the tree is just gone, that disturbs me. And that you say there's other trees on the property that could be eventually just gone. What's our ordinance on that you can just take a tree down downtown?
Well, no. I mean, you can't. It would require a tree removal permit. I don't know when the tree was removed.
Well, it's in the picture, and now you
Yeah,
say
that
it's
picture
gone.
that you're looking at in there was from some time ago, when, that's my car in there, that old Subaru, which I can't even drive anymore. But it's an old photograph. It does show the tree. But I would say the photo itself is at least a year and a half old. I don't know when the tree came down.
And it is a fairly small tree. I mean, I don't know
It
if
is,
it's
but I mean,
4
it
inches. it's
disturbs
just
me
like-
that all of a sudden it's just like, well, there's a tree removed downtown and nobody knows who did it and where, I know there was,
Yeah.
would be my guess is that if you were going to be doing work on this, you would probably remove the tree. And maybe that's a question I have for the property owner. But if there's other trees on the parcel by the parking, I just don't want them to go missing also. So,
I think that tree probably would not have hit the mark for requiring a permit. It doesn't look to be wide enough, but it is really close. But that unfortunately, it does happen that occasionally trees get removed. We have a actually fairly robust community that lets us know when tree removals are happening, and we catch a lot of them, but people just aren't always aware.
okay, duly noted.
Are there any other questions from the commission to the presenter? Are there any other questions from the commission to the presenter? Hearing none, could we open this up for public comment? Did you want to say anything? You're the only? Okay. I'll hit this thing again.
Thanks for coming out tonight and having me here. I'm really looking forward to this project and being a good member of the community. I think the RE/MAX will fit in well with Cotati. Starting out with the owner of RE/MAX, David Rondino, and his wife Erica, and Ken Shire are kind of long-term business owners here. before opening up this REMAX, they were part of REMAX Pros in Rohnert Park. So they've been part of the Rohnert Park Cotati community for, I think like 15 or 20 years now. And it just kind of time for them to open up their own office. They've actually been working out of a temporary space in Petaluma for about 6 months now, and I think they've been very successful. So I'm very hopeful that this will be a business that thrives. The way I picture it is if you go to Healdsburg and walk around, there's certainly in their downtown real estate offices. There's a REMAX. There's, I think, a Century 21. And I do think it kind of fits the kind of walking around kind of a nice downtown, that you also are kind of looking at realty and houses and things that are available. I think it fits with Healdsburg. I think having an office like here will fit in very well also. We're very happy to work with Bill at Avila, and I personally think they came up with a great design. I think it's going to be just really pretty and help the downtown become vibrant. I think having kind of windows and pictures, I think is just going to look really nice. In terms of the parking, basically is in the lease and everything else, I'm committed to providing parking, and I just can't imagine not having it. From a practical standpoint, there's nothing else you can do with that lot anyway, because it's basically got I'm forgetting the word, a rite of passage. And so you've got like parking along the back, but everyone drives through there, so there's no way you could ever build on that. I don't know, it's kind of a luxury to have 11 spots for them, but I just can't imagine a situation where I wouldn't want to provide that parking.
Yeah, I have a couple questions. In Healdsburg, they put pictures all on the windows of the, as you walk by the real estate offices. Is that something that they're going to be doing? Or, I mean, really Healdsburg is my territory, so I walk by these places all the time, and their windows are huge, and they have all the houses' pictures on them.
Yeah, I guess I'd defer to David, but it wouldn't surprise me. I think when people walk around, they like looking at pictures.
Okay. And then my other question was the parking. So the previous owner didn't allow anyone to park at these parking spaces or doing any kind of share with any of the other businesses downtown. And so that was, a lot of people got towed, and it was a real issue for the city. Did you have any issues about, I know the real estate office is probably not going to be open at night.
Yeah, this goes off topic, but I'll tell you anyway, is I'm planning to be back. I also recently purchased the building at the corner of, I guess it's the Hotspot building that used to have the ice cream.
Okay.
And so I purchased that building. And I'm talking with the owner of Hotspot, and I'm hopeful that she'll be able to reopen up again. And I'm hopeful that she'll just take the whole front. And instead of making it just kind of a more of a takeout, that it'll turn into kind of an actual restaurant with kind of nice seating and everything. And actually the back part of the building will likely be some sort of office space. And part of that, I will be sprinklering the building, just because it's the right thing to do, but also if you're changing any usage, it needs to be sprinklered. And so it's going to take a little bit of work, but my hope is that the front half is Hotspot, the back half is retail, and that it's going to take a lot of work, but it's going to be sprinklered and fixing the roof and fixing the front and a lot more than that. So my hope is that, you know, the 11 spaces that are allocated to the bank will be allocated, but then I can allocate some of the other back spaces to that building. And in particular, I think the hotspot would appreciate having parking places for our customers. And so that's kind of what we've been thinking about.
Yes, so thank you for that. I like the idea of having the downtown, being able to see pictures and being able to see the neighborhood and relate to that. So I think that's, you know, very much a valuable addition. So thank you for bringing that forward. And I like I like what you're talking about as well. There has been this tension with the parking at the back for residents and stuff, and just understanding at the time what was going on. So it was very, very hard for a number of people. So that was why I brought it up. So it's good to hear that you're, you know, going to become more involved in the whole area, and appreciate that. So I don't have any more questions.
Does anyone else on the commission have questions for this gentleman? Thank you. Appreciate
Thank you
it.
so much. I appreciate it.
Ma'am, did you have anything you wanted to say? No? Okay. Then we're going to close. And discussion between ourselves.
I like it. I like the prospect. I think the variance that we have to consider is okay. I think it's very well discussed and put forward, so I don't have any problem with that. I like that there's going to be more. It's becoming more integrated as well, or more. There'll be more in the future as well. So for this project, I think it's going to be valuable.
I think that's the heart of the issue, isn't it? The variance. And I've tried to envision this without the variance, and the thing it just turns into all glass, doesn't it? If you were to.
Yeah, it would be, for that below 12-foot roof, it would be mostly glass all along the front there. Once you incorporate the requirement for the bulkhead, it has to be a minimum of 24 inches high beneath the windows. And then the framing, here's how it gets eaten up. You have the bulkhead. You also have cinder block walls, so that eats up, you know, 1.5 feet on the north side. And then you got your door framing and the corner framing, and eventually you eat up all your space for windows, and, you know, you can a little bit on the sides, and then the rest has to be there. So it'd be a real challenge to get to that standard.
And I'm not sure about protocol, Ben, but do you have a problem with, you had an issue with this before. Did you want to discuss it? About the two?
About the two parcels? Well, I mean, the parking issue, I certainly hope those, the excess, it sounds like this requires 11, there are 20 total after we remove one, so there are 9 spaces that can certainly be, you know, counted for another project, but I think we have the ability to even share parking between uses that aren't typically open at the same time of day, so maybe there's even, you know, more usage possible. I'm still concerned about its being restricted only to people when they're in the hotspot. That's not actually how people use the hotspot. They go to one of the bars, and then they go to the hotspot, and then they go wherever. And so if we're going to ticket people when they leave the hotspot, I think you're going to have the same issues that we've had before. So I just encourage you to talk with the city as you move forward with the parking plans to figure out how this is going to work, because people don't want to move their car going between establishments downtown. So the city has provided lots of parking on the other side of the street, and for the most part it works out. But so with that being said, I don't have any issues with the design or the variance, and I trust that the city, a deed restriction feels a little more than is needed, though I'm not sure if there's, I mean, I guess the only, I'm trying to envision a way in which that parking could go away from this use, and it's going to have to come back before the city, whatever other use it's being put to, and at that point I feel like we'll be able to say, no, that parking is already allocated to this use, so I don't feel like it.
So could I ask you specifically, you feel comfortable then without putting something on that?
Yeah.
Okay. JP?
I can touch on, just for your comfort level, that the record is very clear that that the parking is being looked at. There's a count that's on the plans that we're adjusting specific to the use, that it's clear that it established that. So the record of which this, that runs with this property definitely has that parking as part of it. There wouldn't be a legal instrument that would tie it together, but certainly the record ties it to that. And that's how we would proceed in the future, is how we've made our decisions in the past.
Thank you. Is there any more discussion within the commission?
Go ahead, Jamie.
I was just going to say, I mean, I think it looks great. I really appreciate the fact that they, modernized the building in these plans and still making it like fit, into our downtown. So I really appreciate the work that they did on that. In terms of the parking parcel, I mean, I think this is a business that's coming in, and from the tone of what I heard you say, is someone that's like really wanting to like fit in with our community. So I mean, I'm hoping that they'll start off on the right foot and really have like a change in their relationship with the customers that they're using and our customers like downtown. And I think just seeing this design makes me excited for future projects that hopefully we'll see come across sooner rather than later. So just, thank you. It's good.
Lisa?
Yeah, the only thing I have, and I touched on, just because I know it can either look nice or it can look a little haphazard, is they're putting pictures in the windows of 1,000 different houses. And those windows look so beautiful right now. And when you see those up in like Healdsburg, some of those office buildings look nice, or the little street ones look nice, and some of them don't look so great. They look like they're just plastered all up, haphazard. So I don't even know how you can do that, but I mean, the windows look so nice. I would hate to look at that and see like all the pictures of Cotati and Rona Park being plastered on all 3 of those windows. It's almost like an A board stuck in the window. And I don't know. I take issue with that. I think it just looks,
You have a valid point, I think. Ms. Parker, did you have some?
I was going to say that we have had that conversation with them to let them know that as it stands today, the project is subject to the 20% window coverage limitation that we have for signage. And they understand that. They've talked about a variety of alternatives that have to do with sort of high-tech kiosk things that are inside where people can go in and do the same sort of thing, only it's electronic, and having a platform's not the right word, but maybe like a presentation board that's set back behind the window so that you can see around it, you can see activity inside of it, but you still could, if you were peering closely enough, see the actual listings. So they're aware that we're concerned about the visual clutter on the windows. And so if the Planning Commission tonight wanted to do something more specific than that, we can certainly have that conversation. As of right now, like I said, they'd be limited to 20% of the area, the window area.
I'm comfortable with 20%. I just didn't want it to be more than that.
So what I just heard you say is that there are provisions within the city to control the signage that we have some concern with.
That's correct.
So is it crystal clear that a flyer advertising a house is a sign? Is anything taped in the window a sign, according to that ordinance? Or
Not anything that's a sign, but things that are advertising goods or services that are for sale at that business would definitely be considered signage.
Great.
No, I'm comfortable with the 20%.
Okay. Is there any more conversation between the commission members? Then we move to motions. Does anyone have a motion they'd like to make?
I move that the Planning Commission adopt resolution number PC 2017-6, approving preliminary and final design review of exterior modifications to an existing building and granting a variance to the percentage of storefront openings along the primary frontage of an existing commercial building located at 8220 Old Redwood Highway.
I'll second.
We have roll call, please.
Chair O'Nines,
Yes.
Vice Chair Brady,
Yes?
Commissioner Ford,
Yes.
Commissioner Hancock,
Yes.
Commissioner Moore.
Yes.
Okay, then the motion has been approved, seconded, and voted on. Ms. Parker, JP, do we have any reports by staff?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a few things. As I think you're probably all aware, we did take the cannabis tax measure to the City Council, and they voted to place it on the ballot for November 7th, and that doesn't, of course, set the land uses. That's still work that's going to be brought to you all. But it says if we do approve something additional and the existing retail establishment as well continue to operate, then they would pay this cannabis tax, ex-cannabis tax. And so what we put forward to the City Council and what they ultimately adopted was very closely aligned with the way Santa Rosa structured theirs. And we did that purposefully because they had about a gazillion community meetings with residents, business owners, property owners, industry folks to sort of hash out what works for everybody. And so the way the taxes are structured is that there's a cap, a maximum cap, that could only be exceeded by a future vote of the people. But within the range from 0 to those caps, the council has the ability to change it according to what's happening in the marketplace. And so the initial, and in addition, we set them at a much lower rate. So for example, for cultivation, the maximum rate is $25 per square foot of cultivation area, or 8% of annual gross receipts. And then for the initial rate, we set it at 2% of gross receipts, or $5 per square foot. So it's designed to, while the industry is trying to pick locations and trying to figure out which licenses they want and get started, the initial rates are low, and then the initial period is for 3 years. And so they can depend upon that 3-year status quo, and then the council has the ability after that to adjust up or down within that range. And so that's what'll be going before the voters in November. And we're right now working on the land use pieces. I was working on it quite a bit today. And so that'll be coming to you hopefully next month to look at types of licenses and locations for those types, and et cetera, to give a recommendation to the council. So,
May I ask a question?
Sure.
Are we staying within the Sonoma, there are other cities within Sonoma County on these initiatives that you put?
The rates, yeah. We're right about equal with Santa Rosa, slightly less than the county is. And we actually, other than the folks who've said they're not going to allow anything else, there are a couple of those jurisdictions that made that decision early on. So other than the city of Santa Rosa and the county, we would be the next one. There may be others on that ballot, but we're right in there.
So we have some work ahead of us.
We have some work ahead of us, yeah. A couple of other things, the police department got a grant to initiate what they're calling the Parent Project. And it's a project that is meant to educate parents, provide parents with tools that they may not be aware of for kids who are experience problems with drugs or alcohol, truancy, gang problems. So it's free to parents, so any resident can sign up for those courses by contacting the police department. And this is very exciting. JP got notification that we did get the MTC grant award for the wayfinding program, and that RFP is going to go out later this week, so yay JP. That'll be a fun project for all of us. And then just a couple, this is a fun one. Ashley Wilson in our rec department is coordinating a city Halloween project where we're all going to dress up, and City Hall is going to be decorated for kids between 1:30 and 5:30, so for little kids, or to give kids a little jump on the evening's activity. So if anybody wants to stop by and laugh at us, please feel free.
Pretty spooky place.
Yeah, we've heard that. And then for Public Works projects, I have a couple of updates, but I think you're probably mostly aware of them. The Sunflower Park restroom upgrades project has been, the contract has been awarded on that. The La Plaza lighting project, put some new additional lighting in the park. I know this is a Planning Commission favorite. We've got money together to do the first part of the Thomas Page pathway. So from the school down to Richardson Lane, that'll go into design very soon. And finally, the Cotati Station project, the multifamily project, is going to design review on the 21st of September for final design review. They are, I think I've mentioned this, having trouble meeting their solar capacity requirement, so we may hear more about that. I don't have that information yet, so they may be coming back to you as well, or to the City Council for that reason. And they've also submitted their master sign program, so that's in the works as well. And I think that's it. We've got a bunch of stuff going on behind the scenes with the city's website and some software upgrades and stuff that will hopefully have a good public interface, but those are not ready yet.
Did you get to ride the SMART train this week?
I have not ridden the SMART train. Did the commissioners yet? Yeah. Good. And everyone knew that the smart customer service is going to be in our depot. Had that word gotten out? Yeah, they've leased the depot space, so that'll be nice.
Step.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what it is?
Correct, yeah.
Can I ask a follow-up? In your list of public works projects, I was hoping you were going to mention the East Cotati Avenue bike path that's destroyed by Sunflower Park, makes it unrideable. Is that on the agenda somewhere?
Public Works did put in a grant application for OBAG funds actually for that stretch of East Cotati, and I'm afraid I don't have an update on it, but I can get it as soon as the Public Works Director's back in, and I'll update everyone.
Well, I just want to keep reminding you it's quite dangerous. It forces bike riders out into the car lane.
And particularly in the dark, it's quite a surprise.
Yes, if you come on it in the dark, you'll be thrown off your bike into the car lane.
Which is
It's quite dangerous.
Well, that brings us to reports by commission.
I got a follow-up question as well. So just wanted, if I could,
Please.
just wanted to follow up on the school to Richardson Lane. So that is, what status was that at?
I believe there's total funds for design and construction. There may be a little gap in there to do complete construction, but that's the project. Yeah.
So that would be part of the general Safe Routes to Schools initiative or direction? I know there's a national sort of program on that, but this would be where we could fit into looking at the local part?
I believe that all of those funds came from CDBG monies. I don't think there's any Safe Routes to School money in there, but I can double check that as
Was
well.
not a big issue. I mean, I know there is this bigger initiative of how do we make it accessible, and it's under that umbrella of Safe Routes to School. So this was part of that.
I know there is Safe Routes to School money wrapped up in several of those funding pools, and I'm sorry, I just don't know if this
No,
was
that's
one
okay.
of them, but
That's fine. Anyway,
I
good to
can
hear.
check.
Thank you.
Any other reports by commission?
I have just one. And, so I was recently down at Cotati Park, and the gopher issue at the park is just horrendous. We were at a booth. I was actually working a booth, and the gopher was sticking his head out. I don't know if that's, I mean, I know it's been an issue for years down there, but it seems like now it's, the park is really hard to walk. It's got a lot of potholes. I mean, it's just now just getting really torn up. So I don't know if that's on the agenda for on the radar or anything to be an issue taken care of, or?
I'll be sure to mention it to Public Works.
I mean, I know it's been an issue for years. I just didn't know if that was something that, like I said, now becoming like a public safety issue.
Yeah, I'll stress that. I'm not sure if that's on their top of their list yet or not. So I'll mention it.
You said La Plaza Park, correct?
It's La Plaza Park, and it's just so many gopher holes now all the way through the park. And, it's starting to get dangerous.
Under reports by commission, I have a request to make to my fellow commissioners, and this is not going to endear myself with Ms. Parker, but a lot of times when we ask questions, I think we need to give these things, we talked about this a few months ago, give them a name, give them a number. I would like you to please come at the next meeting with a list of issues that we have put to Ms. Parker or JP or someone. For example, I have it in my mind the deterioration of the light poles and the light controls on Valparaiso and all that. That's something that's meaningful to me. And I think, Lisa, you just brought up one, and I think you had another in the past. But
I did have another in the past, but actually that was resolved. So
Okay.
I want to, and I actually thank you so much for doing that. That came out in all of our water bills. I don't know if anybody saw that, but it had our tree ordinance
Right,
in
that's
there.
what
it did, yeah.
And so I was very happy to see that, and I think all the new neighbors that are coming in, we had 3 new neighbors come in, so I'm hoping they saw it in their first water bill. So that was very cool.
They also had tree removal information, too.
It did, it had tree removal information, had a whole ordinance in there, basically, and so moving into a home, especially in the summertime, I think was a great piece of information.
Well, what I'm asking is that if any of you have issues that we want to take to the city,
If I could interrupt you real quick.
I knew you.
Just before,
You're gonna try.
before the commission gets into a discussion of it. So what you're experiencing is a common problem, I think, for residents, is that when they call in to have something fixed or to report something, we don't have a good system for reporting back. And so if it's not immediately visible, it sort of probably feels like it goes into a black hole. So Public Works is actually looking at several different software programs that is a work order system, so that they can be, all the requests can be tracked and assigned a number and closed out. And so my hesitation about bringing them here is that it's not the purview of, most of the things are not the purview of the Planning Commission or my department. So as secretary to the Planning Commission, it's why I don't have all the detail on the Public Works projects, that they're not my projects. And so as infrequently as we meet, I'm not sure that having that would be the most efficient way for you to get your information back. The system that Public Works, it's a real problem. I agree with you. Just tracking things and reporting back to people is a real problem, but they're aware of that. It's a management problem that they want to solve themselves for resource allocation reasons. So they are looking into it. I'm more than happy to tackle, the land use and the zoning and private development projects and all the stuff within our purview that we can move forward. But when it comes to things outside, the best I can do is a conduit.
Anyone have something to say?
I think that sounds reasonable. I know when I bring up some issues, they're not your department. And I know the one I just brought up is probably Public Works. But you're the face right now, and so that's why we talk to you. And that's probably not fair in a lot of ways, is we probably should, I probably should be talking to someone else that I know about this issue, but I don't get any resolution that way. So, but I know the process because I've been in the loop of these things in the past. And, like I said, we see you, and so issues go to you, and you filter them out. Where if there was a more proper way of calling Public Works and having that go through the process, and either an email come back to one of us or to a public citizen and say, we've heard your concern about the split rail down by Benson Lane or whatever, down by the park that's broken. We're in the process of doing this, this, and this. And then eventually, we'll let you know what happened. That would work for me. That would totally work for me to have just a follow-up email, not even have to call me back or anything. So just like you said, on both sides of that issue of having people tell me at the grocery store that they got a pothole in the front of their street, and I'm writing it down to try to get it to the best person to get that fixed. I get it. So, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
I think we're grown-ups, and if we bring something to you and you say, well, that's none of my business, you can say, that's none of the Planning Commission's concern. And I will pat, all we need to know, if we have constituents, whatever the hell, coming to us, we want to say, yes, we've talked to the city about it, and it's not gone into the ether or something like that. We want to know that you passed it on, that's all. And if it is something to do with the planning, then we want it identified and either dismissed or say, you can tell us, well, we can't fund that, we can't do that now, it's out of warranty or whatever. But I'd like some accountability. I think it's not terribly respectful for us to bring these things to you almost like we're pleading.
Well, and again, my hesitation is not because I don't want to hear it, is because I'm not the accountable party for some of them. And so it makes me also feel a little powerless because I hear you and I care about what you're saying and the reason you're saying it, but the best I can do is report it on to the person who is responsible, which I do all the time, and I'm more than happy to do it, but getting into the report back piece of it gives me concern because that's not how my time is allocated.
If you tell us you've set it on, I'd be...
I've got an appreciation that there is software, and I've actually sort of behind the scenes at times said, it just seems like things get fallen into a big hole on some of these things. And so there are people within the city in various departments that can pick up on stuff. I have also seen in this chamber where people have said, oh, there's a beehive that is going out onto the path. And I think it's behind Hancock's property. You know, people stand out and make wild accusations at times, and it's very difficult to actually, I can see that it's very difficult to track them down. So while we may have a particular purview to talk about certain things, it also has to be open to the public and traceable. I think there are other jurisdictions that are coming through with a way of being able to post a request, and it's really an efficiency for the city, I think, to be able to post it. And I've certainly brought up in this chamber that when things are posted also in the future, that we try and have a traceable ID, which is a very difficult problem for the city's software to be able to have the same ID for all the different pieces of software. So I appreciate that there's something that's being visible, and I think it's worth following up on the website.
Can I chime in? Roanoke Park uses a ticket system that works quite well. There's, on the website, you go to Public Works website, you report an issue, you leave a email or phone number, and you do get an email back when the issue is resolved. I have done that, and I don't know if I got intermediate emails. I think I did get an immediate follow-up saying, "Oh, thanks, we'll look into that," and then a couple of weeks later, issue resolved, a ticket. So I think for Public Works concerns, that'll help things a lot. And if we bring up things that are Public Works issues, and you say, at that point, you can say, well, I'll pass it on, but please also use the form online so that it gets into their system directly. There are some areas where I think the boundary is a little fuzzy, like we're also the Bike Pedestrian Commission, and so the bike path being unsafe is our concern as well as a Public Works issue. And I think various things sort of fall in that category of being a little fuzzy about what's where.
Well, and I think that's where it's good where Vicki came in and said, like, on that particular one, right, like, that's a good example, actually, that you just did. She says, oh, I'll email everyone an update, right, because that makes sense, and that falls into what's some of our shared responsibilities for accountability. And then some of the other ones, it's like, I can pass this on. So that's kind of how I view you, is like kind of like our filter. So it's like, okay, that's good. That reminds me this is my role as a planning commissioner, and then, oh, okay, that's my role as like a private citizen. So I need to go through, if I have a complaint about this and I'm serious about this, I'll actually contact Public Works, right? So that's like kind of reminds me, okay, this doesn't fit here. This fits someplace else. Or if someone brought that to me, then I can refer them back to saying, you know what, I brought that up. It's actually more fitting for you to contact Public Works and register your complaint or your concern. So, I mean, that works for me. I don't think that's the best use of personally, I don't feel like that's the best use of your time to be tracking what our things are. I think that's something that we could really do ourselves, unless it falls under those things. And if you could just help us maybe filter those out, because I think, sometimes I'm just unaware of what those things are.
Okay.
And I have one brief report. I used to run or organize Katati's Bike to Work Day station in May. Every year there's Bike to Work Day, and then there are stations around the county. And when the city in an old incarnation had a recreation department, they used to run it, and then when that rec department went away, I took over organizing it for a number of years, and then I stopped about 3 or 4 years ago, and we haven't had one the last couple of years, except we got a new one this year up at the depot that was put together at the last minute by some people that somebody who works for the Bike Coalition knew. So I think I would like us as a Bike Ped Commission to have a little bit of a discussion about that before next May. So I guess I'm just asking that we maybe put a discussion of that on an agenda at some point, because I never think about it until next May runs around and I'm not available that Thursday, whatever. Yeah, right.
Maybe that's something for Ashley Wilson to bring back to
Right,
the
we could talk with the rec department and
yeah.
try to get them back involved, that's true.
Are there any other reports by
Mr. Chair, maybe what I could do, we are planning on a meeting on, we're planning on a meeting on the 21st, so maybe we can agendize the Bike to Work, and I can have Ashley come, and we can sort of figure out a division of labor for that. So that's a good idea.
Okay. Nothing else, then we'll stand adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.
21st of which month? Sorry.
I don't have a count. October 2nd, I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
October
Okay,
2nd.
Thank you.
Sorry, everyone.
I know we're adjourned, but are they putting a clock on a pole on the sidewalk outside the Exchange Bank? There's a clock in the picture.
It's not, I haven't seen that as part of the proposal. Interesting. I don't think so. I think someone took the liberty with their visual sim.
Okay.
That would, it would at least